Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all doing good. And by the grace of the Almighty, we are doing good here. So, today, our topic is review of literature. So, producing literature review is a part of research, either in a postgraduate student's project or in the preparation of a thesis, or it may be even in a journal article. So, it is even common in research proposals just to highlight your subject knowledge in the chosen field. So, today we'll see how to do literature review in your chosen field. So, I'm just asking you a very simple question. What do you mean by the term literature? Yes? Any idea? It refers to a collection of published information or materials on a particular area of research or topic, such as books and journal articles of academic value. So, literature comes in the form of books and journal articles of academic value. So now we have got another slide. How do you review? So before going into the slide, let me tell you the consequences of reviewing through an example. Well, so when we get an urge of buying a gadget, let me say a mobile phone, what will we do initially? So the very first thing we do is looking out for a variety of mobile phones with the price range of your budget. So you'll be reviewing a good range of branded mobiles and you start analyzing the specifications of the phones. Right? This happens, right? So it can be the pixel details of the cameras. It can be on the range of the processor, RAM, etc., etc. So after this detailed analysis, what you do is you combine all these petty details to form a general impression about the mobile phones under review. So only then you come to an idea of the configuration that really suits your demand. So just in the case of an ordinary mobile phone, we do all such reviews, analysis, and combining the details, getting a general impression. All these stuffs are made, right? So now coming back to the slide, let me ask you something. How do you review, or what it really means to review, right? Particularly when it comes to reviewing literature. So, to review means to be capable of identifying the following. What has been established before? What is the established knowledge in this particular field that I have chosen? So, what has been questioned and acknowledged in this particular field? Is there anything, any issue has been questioned or anything has been acknowledged as right in that particular field? So, is there any area of controversy or conflicting ideas among different schools of thought? Is there anything like that? Or is there any problem or issue that remains unsolved? What can I do about that? So, are there any emerging trends and new approaches identified? This is very, very important and the frequently repeated thing in this presentation. So, we have to keep an eye on the emerging trends. For example, if you are up to evaluate the literature in gender studies, don't concentrate only on the very first wave of feminism or the second wave of feminism or the third wave. Keep on noting what feminism holds on for the digital era. Is there any other kind of feminism that that is found to be emerging in the contemporary era? Such things should be taken care of. And how your research extends, builds upon and departs from previous research. So how is your research different from the previous ones? How it demarcates its own individuality from the previous researchers, or how your research is different from the previous research. So this is how you really review. So on the whole, let me ask you, what is a literature review? Well, so a literature review identifies, evaluates, and synthesizes the relevant literature within a particular field of research. Relevant literature, what do you mean by that? So, you are choosing a particular topic, be it on gender studies. So, what are the literature available concerned that particular topic, right? So you must be selective in choosing the relevant literature. That's also there. So it lights up how knowledge has evolved within the field. So in this particular area that I have chosen, you will be able to note down how knowledge has evolved in this particular topic, and you will be able to highlight what has already been done. The previously done research can very effectively be highlighted, and it exposes what is generally accepted. What is the generally accepted issue when it comes to gender studies or post-colonial studies or whatever you choose. So, there are three stages in literature review. What are those? An early stage, middle stage, and a later stage. So, what is so special about this earlier stage? So, the review you conduct in your first year of research, it helps you to refine and justify your research questions. So, a naive or amateur research scholar in his initial year, he'd be full of questions, right? So this literature review, which is conducted during the very first year of your research, will help you to refine your ideas that you have gained. It helps you to justify your research questions. Lots of questions will be evolving, right? So what is this topic about? Can I have any kind of a hope in this particular topic? Will I be able to complete this? All such questions will be pestering you, and doing a proper literature review initially in the earlier stage, I mean during the very first year of your research, will help you to refine and justify your research question. So your written report demonstrates your familiarity with the research in your field. So you will get a close familiarity with the research area. That is very important, right? So only when you get closer to your research area and your research, you will be able to shine. So now comes the middle stage. So what do you mean by that? Reviewing and revising your literature review during the period of your research is also necessary. So it doesn't seems like this. Okay, I have done my literature review during the very first year of my research, and now it is the second year. Why should I look into it? Just leave that. I have other areas or core topics to concentrate on. I can't go into. I can't be keeping on revising that. Don't think like that. So reviewing and revising your literature review is very, very important, and during this middle period of your research, it is very, very essential, because it helps you to update yourself by including reviews of the most recent relevant publications. So something special about research is that you can keep on updating your research now and then. So contemporary research segment gets broader day by day. New issues are discussed every day, and so during this middle period of your research phase, what happens is, if you revise it, you will be able to update it by getting more relevant publications. So why not include this recent publication also? The idea seems good. How can I connect my literature review with this particular contemporary article? Let me try to make some kind of a connection out of it. So these ideas can be gained. You can make your research topic more engaging, right? So that is very important. And now comes the later period. So now you will also need to revisit your literature review in the final stages of your research to relate your own findings to what other scholars have previously found in your area. So you mustn't throw your literature review document in the corner. Okay, now I have come to the final stage. I have to go in for the proofreading. I have to check out all the works cited formalities. So why do I go on looking up into the a literature review, this shouldn't be your stand at all. So you should revisit your literature review and you should mend it again and again, so that you can relate your findings. So now at the final stage of your research, what happens is you will know what your research finding is. And now in the initial stages, you wouldn't be you wouldn't have finalized your research finding. It was just a starting, right? So now during the final stage, you would know what your finding is actually. So you can very easily correlate between your findings versus the other findings of the previously done researches in that same area. So at this stage, you may need to explore fields that were not included in your preliminary review. So now you will find that certain fields are not mentioned, were not mentioned in your literature review, so that now you can identify the gaps, what all you have left it out, and you can update it even in the final stage. So these three stages in literature review is very, very important. Okay. So now the three mighty steps in literature review. So there are 3 steps in literature review that helps you a lot. What's the first one? Locate relevant literature. So it is just identifying the key texts. So what are the articles or theses that you are going to take up for reviewing? So you have to identify that, or you have to locate it. So only if you locate, you can proceed further, right? So this is the very important first step. And what is the second step? Review the literature. So you have to go through the text. So it doesn't sound like, okay, why should I read that unnecessarily? I'm going through the primary sources and I'm working on it. So why should I read a piece of work done by another author? It wastes my time. Don't think like that. You have to read very clearly. You have to be in depth in what you're reading about the other research articles or thesis. So you read it line by line. Make sure what the author is trying to convey or what he has conveyed. Analyze it. Evaluate it critically. What are the areas missed by that particular author? He hasn't concentrated on this area. Only these areas are being done by him. So analyze it critically. And now comes the third step. What's that? Writing about the literature. So now you have come to a point. Yeah. So first thing is you have identified the key text, you have read it line by line, you have analyzed it, and you have evaluated it very critically. And now you are going to jot down. So you are going to synthesize all the ideas analyzed, and you are going to organize it very efficiently. So these 3 steps in literature review will help you a lot. Please go systematically. It will help you. Okay, go with the trend. So anything we do, we see that we go on with the trend, right? So even if it is something concerned with Instagram filters, we are up to date. We update our app now and then to make sure that we are going on with the trend. So we do that. So that applies to literature review too. Do keep this in mind. So look out for the emerging current state of thinking on the topic. So new thinkings arrive every day. It emerges every now and then. So you have to keep yourself updated on the current state of thinking on that particular topic. So a literature review identifies a research gap that is unexplored or under research areas and articulates how a particular research project addresses this gap. So as I told you, if your area of study, this is just for an example, keep this in mind, right? So if you have chosen gender studies, you would have collected articles written by older feminist concepts like that concerned with initial waves of feminism, and now you would understand that the recent digital feminism is not included. So now you find a gap there. So why, as these authors have focused on only on the initial waves of feminism, and this one is pending. This has been left out. So now you find a vacuum there. So now we have found out something that is left unexplored. What about feminism during the digital era? You could find that women are working now, unlike the women belonging to the previous generation. So what can you do about it? So you could see that women are very actively participating in the digital social media apps and other things. So how can you make anything more interesting? How can you update your research with the gaps that you found? So if you have to find these gaps, you have to do a proper literature review so that you can explore the unexplored. Got it? So what you have to keep in mind is go with the trend. And now note this, very particularly note this. Your literature review does not need to be inclusive of every article and book that has been written on your topic. That will be too broad, narrow down. So what does it mean? See, okay, you'll be ready for a literature review and you'll have very big imaginations. And what some people do is, some scholars do is, they'll be collecting each and every article written on that particular area. My God, your research shouldn't go too broad like that, right? So of course your findings can be broad, but literature review has to be narrowed down. It shouldn't be too broad. You shouldn't hunt for all the articles written under the same banner, right? So you have to narrow down, not in your findings but in literature review. On the other hand, it should include the key sources related to the main debates, trends and gaps in your research area. This is the point that you have to keep in mind. So the key sources, what are the key concepts in this particular area? Have I collected the articles of covering all these major key concepts? You should make sure about that. You must make sure that you have collected all the main arguments and trends going on, and now you can find the gap in your research area. Please keep this in mind. So the field level of reviewing. So a review of literature is more than a summary of relevant sources. It's not like summarizing all the relevant sources. It means much more than that. It involves evaluating, right? Evaluation is important, as well as synthesizing individual sources. So you will be gathering lots of individual sources, and what you have to do is that we'll go into detail in the next slides. So what you have to do is you have to synthesize these individual sources so that you gain a broad view of the field that you have chosen. Right? So at this field level, literature review discusses the following. What is it? Common and emerging approaches. What are the common approaches discussed previously? What are the emerging approaches that are going on according to the trend nowadays? How can I differ from that? So notable patterns and trends should be ticked. Areas of conflict and controversies should be noted. And certain authors, they'll be full of controversies, right? So those things should be noted. And gaps within the relevant literature. Again, this is a repetition, but I have kept on repeating just to know that the gaps within the relevant literature should be noted down, and it should be brought out in your research. That's very important. So observe all these areas of discussion, situate your own research, and contribute to ongoing debates within the field. So your literature review should be such a way that it ignites new ongoing debates within the same field that you have explored. Well, so, in other words, when reviewing the literature, not only do you need to engage with a body of literature, you also need to be able to compare, contrast, synthesize, and make arguments with that literature in ways that indicate a readiness to contribute to the literature itself. So this is very, very important. It's not just like you are summarizing everything. You should be able to compare, contrast, synthesize, and you should be able to make arguments. Arguments are very, very essential in literature review. You should make sure about that. And what are the core characteristics of literature review? So it involves the analysis and synthesis of multiple sources. So you will be blessed with lots of individual sources. So multiple sources will be before you, and you have to analyze it individually, and then you'll have to synthesize or combine everything together. So it necessitates the juxtaposing or comparing and contrasting of sources. It's not just summarizing. Keep that in mind. Okay, this author told this, has come up with these ideas, and this particular author B has come up with all these ideas. That's all, my lord. So that shouldn't be like that. You have to compare it, contrast it, and this literature review is one step beyond this evaluation of resources, as it is primarily concerned with examining the field. So each and every review that you do is primarily concerned with examining the field. It goes on with a broader perspective. Please keep that in mind. And now, what is analysis and synthesis? So analysis includes thoroughly breaking down the relevant literature into its constituent parts, or in other words, you are going to deconstruct the relevant literature piece by piece, part by part. You are going to break down the concepts that you have found in that particular research paper, so that you are well aware of its constituent parts, just like a mechanic does. He knows every individual parts of a motor vehicle, isn't it? So likewise, you are putting out all the parts individually. You are taking it out and you are viewing what is actually happening here, what has the author dealt with. And then later comes synthesis. What is synthesis? Synthesis is the act of making connections between those parts. So what does a bike mechanic does? He synthesizes all the parts together so that the engine runs properly, right? So likewise, in you have initially deconstructed your research paper, and you have done a very detailed analysis, and you have broken down all the bits into separate parts. And now, through this act of synthesis, you are making connections between those parts. You are making a connection between those authors and the existing knowledge. And now you will notice the collaboration between analysis and synthesis when you observe it closely, right? So after analyzing a range of sources, you should synthesize the relevant sources by connecting, linking, and positioning them against each other. So only then you will be able to compare and contrast. So now you'll be able to identify the recurring themes and trends. So you will be able to identify or locate the recurring themes and trends, and areas of agreements will be noted down. Areas of disagreements will be clearly jotted down within your research field. So this is the use of analysis and synthesis, and it's not like listening to this lecture and going on simply like that. Attempt for a good literature review in your own field. So practice more, write more, see that if you are able to analyze it very deeply, and later are you able to synthesize all those individual parts together again, so that you will get a complete picture about all these recurring themes, trends, and areas of agreements, disagreements. All these things will be noted down. And so here is a picture. Look at this. So you have 4 kinds of sources: A, B, C, and D. So through the picture, we understand that resource B is supporting the concept of A, and even resource D is supporting A. That means it supports key source, resource A, indirectly. And you could see that resource C is completely contradicting against resource A's argument. This is how your literature review should be like. So certain things can be compared, certain concepts can be compared, and something else can be contrasted. Okay, this is not equal with both these resources. It is entirely different. What am I going to do about my own research? Am I going to sail on the same boat, or am I going to project myself in a different area? So this is how your literature review must be. So functions of a literature review. So it provides a background to your work by summarizing the previously published work. It demonstrates early research findings in an area. So that is very important. What was earlier founded out in this particular area. So it also should also explain the recent developments in an area, and it highlights area of controversy as well as agreement between experts, as I told you before. So it identifies dominant views in the previously published research. So what is the dominant view that most of the authors acknowledge? You should note down that. And it identifies research gaps or unexplored areas. That is what you are going to do. That's the main purpose or the principal purpose of any literature review. So it justifies your research by indicating how it is different from other works in the same area. This is very, very important. And thank you so much, scholars. Thank you so much for listening patiently. This is how you make a review of literature. Don't complicate yourself. Follow these steps efficiently, analyze it properly, synthesize it efficiently, so that you find all the relative trends that emerges from your area, and do a better research, right? So thank you so much again. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel before, do subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon to get further updates. And please do follow my Facebook page also. The link is given below. Thank you.